Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Monday night live stream for now week 18 of the 2024 fantasy football season. I want to first and foremost say, for those of you who are joining us on this wonderful Monday night, and you are now a 2024 fantasy football champion based on the events that took place in week 17, congratulations. For those of you who are potentially here and you fell short, again, my condolences. This is a rough situation in which, of course, you weren't able to bring it home, but hopefully next year we can go ahead and bring that in your direction. Either way, over the course of the next, however long you guys want to talk fantasy football, I'll be here, of course, going over some of the context as we approach week 18. The rankings that you guys see here that are going to filter over the course of today's live stream are waiver wire pickups for week 18 in specific. Now, again, I've mentioned it in years past. We'll continue to go over it. Playing in week 18 is as rough of a situation as you could possibly ask for. If we thought last week's injuries and the situations of guys like CeeDee Lamb, Chuba Hubbard being shut down for the remainder of the season were rough, imagine what we're going to see this upcoming weekend. Of course, there are going to be teams that have already secured the NFL playoffs that aren't going to be starting. There are going to be players that are dealing with injuries that are not going to start. But hopefully, there are going to be teams that are still within your roster, like the Lions, the Vikings, players of that stature that are still going to be playing in week 18 and hopefully help you lead to a 2025 it's going to be by the time we get there, fantasy football championship. Either way, hope you guys are doing well. I see many of you guys letting me know that you guys won some championships. Congratulations. Of course, there were some rough scenarios yesterday in which unfortunate circumstances happened, but that's the name of the game. Again, hopefully you guys were on the side of a Devontae Smith incredible game. Hopefully tonight somebody had Jared Goff rolling. I mean, if you had Purdy rolling tonight, he was great until he started turning into Jameis Winston in the second half of that game and airmailing a couple passes up there. But either way, congratulations for those of you who won. Let's get into answering some questions, shall we? Again, if there are anybody in this chat in a week 18 situation, again, we're not going to know 100% context as to who is in, who is out, but hopefully the rankings on screen will kind of give you a indication as to potentially if you are in need of a player to pick up. For example, we know that Travis Kelce's not going to play this week. Maybe one of these tight ends like Mike Gesicki, Tyler Conklin, Jawan Johnson, who all three had incredible performances, all of them with a pretty good opportunity share within their offense could potentially service you to help you guys, of course, capture a victory here. Okay, so the first question was sent in from Blue Jay. Blue Jay, let me see if I can find your question in the live chat. I see there was nothing attached to it, but let me see if we're here. Blue Jay says, I needed 9 points from Debo. He got 9.1. The fumble on the kickoff return almost made me go insane. Finally won my first championship. Appreciate you, Andrew. Brother, Debo Samuel, what did he have? 1 catch today for a touchdown? Dude, I mean, hey, if you won, congratulations. Be careful of the stat correction. It happens every Tuesday. Let's hope that there's no stat correction. I'm not trying to put that out in the universe. Let's knock on wood. Everything goes well, but congratulations, Blue Jay. I'm glad to hear that, man. Auntie Slayer says, I won the championship, Andrew. Thank you for everything. No problem. Glad to help any way I possibly could. Again, there were many of calls this weekend that were rough for me. I'll come out and I'll say it. I did not anticipate that Colts game versus the Giants to go that way. Not only the Josh Downs do nothing. It was Michael Pittman and, Alec Pierce that dominated with each 100 receiving yards and a touchdown apiece. But the Colts defense was brutal. In all of my leagues in which I played them, -4 points. Could have lost me a championship. Luckily, it was not the case in which I lost because of their efforts. But that was the most we're going to Cancun performance of a defense that I have seen in a while. That game from Drew Lock, I had to stat correct it because I just needed to know. That's the 12th best quarterback performance of the season. Drew Lock with his 4 passing touchdowns and he wasn't sacked a single time in that game. Ridiculous game. If you guys had Malik Neighbors, obviously you enjoyed having that in the fantasy football championships. I see definitely delivered going in that direction. All right, let's see here. Christopher Farmer sends in a question. Says, Andrew, I did it. Thanks, my friend. All the advice and help over the league decisions. Yep. 1 on that Gibbs touchdown. Dude, I sat there and as Gibbs trotted into the end zone, I quite literally said it out loud. Somebody definitely either won or lost a championship based on that touchdown. I'm glad to hear it was you, Christopher. Congratulations, my man. SB, congratulations, my man. Champs meeting only. Well, I would assume that this is probably a champs meeting only, or it's potentially a meeting in which if somehow, some way you are playing in week 18, which again, hopefully, the chaos that ensues this week will be enough of a motivator to convince you or to convince your fantasy league manager, commissioner to change the ruling. That would probably be a good idea considering, again, we're going to be in a rough situation here. Now, when we look at the teams that have to play, again, there aren't very many that technically don't have to play for anything, but when we look at it as it currently stands, if we talk about teams that have already clinched positioning for the fantasy or for the NFL playoffs, The Bills, Texans, Chiefs, Rams, and Eagles don't have to play for anything. So I would not anticipate any of their starters to play the entirety of the game. It's not to say that their starters aren't going to play in the first half. We've already heard earlier today from Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, just like they have done in seasons past. They're going to play them in the first quarter, maybe the first half, and then they're going to sit in the second half and be ready to go. As for teams that are expected to play all their starters, we have the Falcons, Ravens, Panthers, Bengals, Broncos, Lions, Packers, Chargers, Dolphins, Vikings, Steelers, Buccaneers, and Commanders. Assuming they're healthy, they're going to play. And then there are a bunch of teams that have already been eliminated, and if in fact one of their starters are dealing with an injury, if they belong to the Cardinals, Bears, Browns, Cowboys, Colts, Jaguars, Raiders, Patriots, Saints, Giants, Jets, 49ers, Seahawks, and Titans, if they belong to one of those teams, there's a possibility in which, because they're dealing with said injury, they may not end up playing this given week, but we'll keep an eye on it as we progress towards this upcoming Sunday. All right, let's see here. Arda sends in a question, says, thank you. Back-to-back championship won by 0.54 points with Colts defense. That is rough, brother, but hey, congratulations. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that the Colts defense didn't go even further negative than they possibly could have, because, man, I'm telling you, that was the we're going to Cancun performance of the year, potentially. They really let us down in that scenario. Jocelyn says, I heard Montgomery would be back next week. Could that be a play? There's a possibility that he could come back. I was under the assumption that his timeline was more for the playoffs, but if there's a possibility in which he practices this week and obviously the medical staff clears him to play with the MCL injury, then yeah, he could absolutely be a play, because considering, again, they have to beat the Minnesota Vikings in order to secure the number 1 seed. Regardless of what happened tonight, the Lions have to for sure win this upcoming week, which it should be a high-scoring shootout, hopefully, between those two teams, and hopefully help us for fantasy upside in that circumstance. Let's see here. Kaluminati says, bro, just won my championship. Thank you, Andrew. Salute. Congratulations, my guy. Says, third season rocking with you. Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Let's see here. Playing in week 18, I'm up 35. Okay, you got a pretty good start. Says, Pretty Hate Machine says, what about Blake Corum with the Rams? Yeah, look, here's the thing. I don't expect them to start any of their main guys. So I don't know what kind of potential for upside he would theoretically have within the offense. Like, sure, there's still going to be professional football players playing on the offensive side of the ball, but considering all the injuries their offensive line has had, with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jordan Whittington out there, are they still going to be able to run the ball as effectively with that being their QB1 and wide receiver 1? I don't expect it to be as high level of an offense as it was throughout this entire season. So he is definitely a potential option in which we're going to be ranking, because I do not expect, again, Sean McVay doesn't play his starters in the preseason. Don't expect him to play a single starter this week unless, of course, there's some sort of financial incentive for them to get like 1 or 2 catches or something of that extent. Like last year, week 18, the only reason Puka Nacua even played was in order to secure that he broke the record for most receptions and receiving yards by a rookie in NFL history. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even been fielded last year, in week 18. But yeah, Kyren could certainly be an option. But again, with a lesser offense, the second string taking on Seattle could be at full capacity with their defense. May not be the prettiest of outputs there. Let's see here. Onich says, I'm going into week 18. I'm up 99.94 points. Let's go, dude. You're, again, like I always say, job's not finished. We're not going to, we're not going to rest on that lead, because there's always a possibility of it getting flipped in the opposite direction. So hopefully we can set ourselves up for success. But that is obviously a very, very comfortable position to be in your circumstance here. This year, Leo Gamma sends out a question, says, Neighbors and Goff got me the chip. Comeback of 19% winning percentage. That is incredible. Yeah. Neighbors went for what? In a full PPR, was like 36 fantasy points. Goff today, obviously with a incredible performance. Another game in which he had, 3 touchdowns. Goff as of late, Burrow as of late have been torching for fantasy purposes. Baker Mayfield yesterday with a monster production. 5 passing touchdowns. Luckily, the weather was clear for him to go ahead and dice up that Carolina defense. John just sent in a very generous super chat. John, thank you very much, sir. Says, thanks for all the help this year. Love your work. Won both my leagues. Big money buy-ins. Grateful for the content. Cheers. Congratulations, John. I'm glad to hear that, my man. Congratulations. Awesome. Angel Montero says, Andrew needs to go into the Hall of Fame. Let's take it easy, okay? Let's take it easy. All right, 1 year at a time, one week at a time, to be honest. We're on to week 18. We're still trying to, win some championships here. Not all is finished. Flo says, I'm not playing a week 18 in all my leagues. I just wanted to give you props, Andrew, for all this insight in the 17 weeks plus. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Flo. Greatly appreciate the kind words, my man. Thank you again, John, for the very, 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 very generous super chat. Bobby says, with tonight game. Bobby's question is 2-league champion. Thanks, my friend. Let's go. Congratulations, Bobby. Brees fell off of a cliff, brother. You know what's hilarious? What I think is incredible? As soon as Aaron Rodgers taps out, Tyrod Taylor comes in and absolutely goes off for 2 touchdowns immediately. Tyrod Taylor looked like the better quarterback of the two. I think Rodgers' career is probably over. I don't think the Jets are probably going to go back in his direction this upcoming season. I'd be greatly surprised if that was the case. And hopefully with a new offensive coordinator and one that wants to heavily run the ball, hopefully they have a history of being like a running backs coach or a coach that is specifically wanting to get their running back heavily involved. Hopefully we're getting one of those for next year in the case of the Jets offense in order to get some, opportunity in the direction of Brees Hall, because yes, he and Garrett Wilson unfortunately just fell off the cliff the last 2 months of the season, unfortunately, because that offense just, they fell apart piece by piece. Sam, congratulations. Clarence, congratulations. That's awesome to hear, my man. Frank says, thank you, Brock Purdy. Listen, Brock Purdy getting pulled at that final draft, I was worried that him getting pulled at the end there would have been a possibility in which people were going to lose. I legitimately thought, oh, man, because they were going to go down and score. I mean, even Josh Dobbs went down and scored. It makes me wonder, why didn't Josh Dobbs play in the 2 games in which Brandon Allen was a starter earlier this year? Because if Josh Dobbs had played in those games, there could have been the potential could have been in which the 49ers have a winning record and in this game potentially even win out and potentially make the playoffs. I don't know. Either way, speaking of potentially making the playoffs, they weren't going to do so because of the efforts of Jake Moody today. Jake Moody sped run the end of his career. I mean, he'll probably end up somewhere else as a practice squad kicker to potentially fill in next season once an injury takes place to a kicker. But I don't expect Jake Moody to go back. That was one of the roughest scenarios of an end of game kicking performance that I've seen in a while. Thomas Dabney sends in a question. Says, I'm one of those who lost last because of the Gibbs touchdown. I had Laporta, put up the best fight I could. Just wanted to give you flowers, Andrew. Thanks for the knowledge. I appreciate it. Thomas, you've been around here for a while. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, you weren't able to bring in the chip, but hey, at least we got to the finals and put up a valiant fight and valiant effort there, Thomas. Thank you. Head Shop sends in a question. Says, thanks for all the help this season. Just lost the championship by 5 points because I play the Colts defense. Could have made it without you. Looking forward. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Head Shop. Dude, that's rough. Man, I can't believe the Colts did that too. I mean, again, it happens. It happens. Sometimes a defense, even though the matchup is beautiful, they just don't show up. We could have literally probably played any other defense and you would have won. And that's I'll take the L on that. My apologies, Head Shop. But hopefully, yeah, obviously looking forward to next season. Nathan Dennison says, I won by 3 points, 177 and 174. 177 is a ridiculous volume of points, by the way. Let that be a note. Now, if you got to 177, I assume you either had like a Higgins, Neighbors, Devontae Smith, maybe a McMillan, Jamison Williams. You had to have somebody at wide receiver that went completely nuclear. That's my guess. But either way, 177 to 174, that probably is like the highest scoring championship game in your league, if I had to guess, of all time. I don't know what your league's history looks like, but that's a ridiculous number. Congratulations, Nathan. Philip Zhang sends in a question, says, I won the championship thanks to all the help this season for the last 3 years, Andrew. Hope all is well. Deserved break. Yeah, listen, I didn't leave my bed for a while today. I wasn't already feeling well because I hadn't slept very many hours this last weekend. Obviously, I was preparing everything I could. I probably slept like 3 hours combined each of the last, Saturday and Sunday prior to those live streams in the morning. So I was cooked the last couple of days. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly feeling better. Obviously, we're looking forward to week 18 Saturday, actually. Again, as this week progresses, Saturday morning, probably we're going to have a live stream. Sunday morning, we're probably going to have a live stream. So keep in mind, if you guys are playing in this weekend and you want those like updated rankings like we typically have it on screen in this area, I'll be around. But otherwise, in the next couple of days, I'll continue to do live streams. I'll have like top 36 running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, all that kind of jazz. When we live stream, no daily uploads over the course of this week, just live streams, just keeping it fresh. And of course, if you have any questions, swing on by. If you're not able to make it to a live stream, and you still want those rankings, it'll be posted on the channel. It won't be in the videos tab. It'll be in the live tab as a VOD, as a video after recording. Thank you. Appreciate it, Philip, and congratulations. Sebastian Alex says, I was down 1.5 points. I had Gibbs versus Jennings. That touchdown won me the championship. Thanks for the help. Would have done it without you. Thank you very much. Bless 2025. I appreciate that. Congratulations, Sebastian. Again, yes, for all of you, happy holidays. Happy New Year. Again, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. You guys probably won't be around here and around these parts when I'm live streaming tomorrow afternoon. But again, yes, Happy New Year's. Congratulations. Glad to hear it. Sammy says, hey, Andrew, down by 10 points due to Joe Burrow and T. Higgins combo in week 18. Pay extra attention for the potential upside in the matchups. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Here's the thing about week 18 again. We're not going to know 100% of whether or not some of these players are going. Like, we know that there are some players that have contract incentives in order for them to potentially play, like a Tony Pollard could end up playing. Geno Smith has a contract, that could get him upwards of $5 million if he hits a couple of those incentives. We're going to keep an eye on whether or not these players are going to be active, even though they have no reason to play. That would be their only incentive to do so. If they're dealing with an injury, they may not end up going. We'll get kind of clearer picture of the situation as we get closer. Let's hear. Constantino says, yeah, Thomas Niners defense decided to ignore Gibbs on the 30-yard run. How? Yeah, I don't know. Right? Listen, they just let him go. At this point, in the season, some people are just making business decisions. They're not trying to go down the sideline and make a tackle that's going to have them have to rehab for the next 10 weeks. They want to hit Cancun, right? There's a lot of these teams that are done. Miguel says, I won 200 at 164, brother. Dude, 200 is ridiculous. I don't even care if you play in a 2 QB league. 200 is a ridiculous number. Like in my main home league today, I won the championship in my main home league. This is the first time I've done it since 2022. I put up 195 in a 2 QB league. If you guys are putting up like 100, 200, 170 in a 1 QB league, that is ridiculous. All right, let's see here. Renee says Gibbs Lee winner, fellas. Absolutely. Look, as soon as Montgomery went down, that was the given, right? Pop says, so Purdy's last play wasn't a sack? I'm pretty sure. Technically, it's this season it's going to be. Was it not a sack? I'm pretty sure that was designated a sack because he came off the edge and caught him behind the backfield. Raul says, hey, Andrew, I just won the championship thanks to Gibbs and JMO. Congratulations. Yeah, JMO getting that rushing touchdown. Dude, the game started out very interesting. When we have the game starting out with a Pearsall, by the way, Pearsall absolutely was the Jennings killer today and, Debo. But Pearsall, Juszczyk, JMO. For the first 4 touchdowns of the game and in a Purdy rushing touchdown. I don't know if anybody had that written down, but I don't think anybody had that on their bingo chart for today in terms of the touchdowns being scored by those given players, especially in that order. Gabriel says, I played in 5 leagues. 3 of my teams made the finals. I did win 1. I cashed in 1K. Congratulations, Gabriel. Unfortunately, weren't able to bring in the other championships, but hey, I'm glad that, at least you were able to get 1 in cash, a big payday there. Crispy Chris says, well, it was a great run. Lost in the championship. Sorry to hear that, Crispy. My condolences to you, brother. Ricardo says, let's see. Okay, Football is Life says, first year tuning into the channel. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. I'm glad to help in any way. Let's see here. We're on the championship. He had Burrow. Then my Ford was injured. I was sure it was all over. Thanks for the help. Damn, you ended up still winning, huh? Even with Ford's injury. Yeah, for Ford's injury, I thought he was going to come back and play. He did come back later in the game, and then obviously they shut him down. So pretty unfortunate situation. Like, dude, you'll see it here. Like, Amir Abdullah's only here. Dude, Madison, I thought was going to have himself a solid game. Dude, Amir Abdullah went for 120 rushing yards. I didn't think that the third down running back, the guy that, yes, at times is going to get sprinkles of opportunity, I didn't think they were going to go ahead and give him all of the overall opportunity of running the ball 20 plus times in that game and being as dominant of a performer as he was. But hey, listen, if Amir Abdullah is healthy this week, which again, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury as of right now, we'll keep that monitored as we get into week 18 Sunday. If he's healthy, even if against, the Chargers, still could be valuable because of that receiving potential for upside. And of course, he's kind of designated himself as the primary rusher of that offense based on his recent efforts. Dio Good says, thank you. Won 2 of my 4 leagues. You're the GOAT. Thank you. Congratulations. Jay says, great year. Fun content, dude. Happy birthday. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. It's been my birthday every day for the last how many months here. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Again, yeah, listen. What does it say? Gibbs deserved the chip. Yeah, Gibbs definitely got us to the chip. Listen, you know what the funny thing was? There was a lot of players this season, specifically like Gibbs. For those of you who were able to get him at the discount in which we did because he was dealing with that hamstring injury prior to the season, he certainly did deliver based on the investment that we made overall. Obviously, Saquon Barkley was probably the best running back investment that you could have possibly made at the late end of the first, early second round based on his efforts, 2,000 rushing yards. Anytime you have a 2,000-yard rushing running back, if you don't win the championship in your fantasy league, you must have had some unfortunate injuries plague you because otherwise he was incredible this season. All right, let's see here. Frank says, Thank you for all the knowledge throughout the season. No problem, Frank. Glad to help. Jake Ring says chip. Adam, baby, let's go, Jake. Miguel says it's a one quarterback league. I had Henry, McBride, Adam, as in Thielen, and Brock and Lad McConkey. Dude, that is a absolute ridiculous squad. Adam Thielen, Lad McConkey. I mean, dude, Thielen just, for his age, to be able to play at this level, at this high of a level is incredible. Robert P says, I feared Gibbs was going to let me down. Came through, giving 3 championships this year out of 8. Thank you, Andrew. Congratulations, my man. That's a really good conversion rate. 3 championships in 8 leagues. I would say, considering all of the absolute disastrous situations that have taken place over the course of this season with injuries and players, obviously not showing up. We're talking about guys like Joe Mixon, Cooper Kupp in the fantasy playoffs. Being able to still bring in 3 chips that's props to you, brother. That's well done on your part. Billy Mack says week 15 won the match with a single quarterback in a half PPR league and scored a ridiculous 166. Yeah, 166 in a 1 QB league in a half PPR is beyond impressive. In a full PPR, that's typically like if you had a really solid week here, you're good. 166 is very achievable, but in a half PPR, brother, that is sheesh. Let's see your drop. What does it say? Drop Josh Allen this week, says Prince Caspian. I mean, Josh Allen's only going to play in the first quarter in the first half. So ultimately, you'd never play him. In the event in which he scores 3 touchdowns in the first half, then sure. But ultimately, I would probably just rather have somebody else rolling with my team if I'm going to get 4 quarters of play. Because even if the Bills don't win this game, I mean, it doesn't make a difference. They're still going to be the number 2 seed. So I wouldn't anticipate, Josh Allen to have to be out there to score a bunch of fantasy points in the overall effort. So yes, I would say that Josh Allen is definitely a droppable option this week, assuming you are able to pick up a quarterback that can function as your starter for the entirety of this upcoming week's games. Again, depending on what is available, if guys like, we presented it on screen. If somehow Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, Drake May are available within your league, those are valiant options. Otherwise, you could, these players right here, potentially, like a Joe Flacco, assuming Anthony Richardson's out again, could be an option. Mac Jones, Mason Rudolph, those are alternative options that also, if in fact they are going to be playing this week, we'll see. We did hear that earlier today. The head coach of the Titans specifically said that both Levis and Mason Rudolph were going to play this upcoming week. So I think they're going to probably go back and forth. If I was in your position, probably avoid Mason Rudolph at that point and just go for some alternative option at that point. Thank you. Scott says, I won $1,500 from Underdog. I came in 47th place in the puppy. Congratulations, brother. That is ridiculous. 47th place and you win $1,500. That is a really good payout, dude. Congrats. That is ridiculous. Constantino says, I was down 2.5 in 1 chip, but up 11 in the other. Gonna need your streams this week. Yeah, I'll be here, brother. I'll be here to help you out as the week progresses. Luis Castillo says nothing like winning a championship and seeing the replacements is on TNT. That is funny. Good movie, yeah. I mean, what is it? Is it Keanu Reeves? That's the replacements, right? Dr. Dab sends in a question. Says, I'm 7-7 versus a 12-2 team, full PPR. I dropped 190 to his 139. Round 1. Let's effing go. Yeah, again, that's good to go so far. 7-7 making the playoffs and then getting to the championship and being up, 50 points right now, 51. Yeah, you're in a pretty good position, but hopefully your players aren't associated to teams that are going to be shutting down. So hopefully you don't have too many Buffalo Bills, LA Rams, and you have more of hopefully you have a Jared Goff, an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Justin Jefferson-esque player. There are many of teams that are still fighting for playoff positioning. Like we mentioned earlier, of course, like the Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're trying to still figure out who's going to win their division. Obviously, there are some teams that are still fighting in terms of trying to be a wild card seed in the AFC side, where Cincinnati, even though the likelihood of them making it to the playoffs is like 6% based on the last time I checked, Cincinnati, Miami, Denver, Los Angeles Chargers, they're all still going to be fighting for seeding in that scenario, which is obviously a bonus rather than them shutting down their players, of course. Let's see here. Chubbs McGee sends in a question. Says, won the championship. Congratulations, Chubbs. Says, I went on a 9-game winning streak to close out the year after trading Adams for Achane, averaging 145 for the season with no games under 100 points. No games under 100 points is an achievement in itself. The amount of games that I've had this season where I go less than 100 because of how rough, especially the beginning of the year. If we talk about weeks 1 through 4, that was some rough football. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure. I clearly remember because I remember a lot of the stuff that goes on in this league or in the National Football League because I do this every single day. But yeah, to begin the year and still not have a single performance under 100 is crazy. Dude, Obi-Wan Kenobi just said I got 140 points. How did you get 140? Can you do me a favor and type in I want to know who your starters are this week. That's got to be like a Higgins, Burrow, Devontae Smith, Neighbors, Jonathan Taylor. Who else? Did you start Amir Abdullah? Like, what did you have on roster to get 240, brother? That seems incredibly high for a 1 QB league. Now, if you're playing in a 2 QB league or like a triple flex, then sure. Cater says, can you explain the RB pickups for this week? Yeah, absolutely. Look, in terms of the RB pickups going into this week, we typically want to have players that are associated with teams that are going to be starting their starters. But in the case in which this isn't the case, we know that Amir Abdullah obviously has outplayed Alexander Mattison over the course of the last couple of weeks here. Amir Abdullah having scored a receiving touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, in 4 of the last 5 games. Again, if he's going to be clear of his injury, he should be a fantastic play considering the receiving upside in a negative game script. As for the next player on that overall list, we had... what's it called? Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, prior to Sunday's game, they did specifically come out and say, as in the head coach of the New England Patriots, he came out and said that Ramondre Stevenson will no longer be the starting running back and it will be Antonio Gibson. As I thought it was going to be kind of, smoke and mirrors like they demonstrated earlier this season in week 5 against the Dolphins. That was not the case. Ramondre touched the ball 3 times. The rest of the time, it was all Antonio Gibson. In a negative game script, obviously, Antonio Gibson is obviously more implicated, but if he's going to continue to be the primary RB within the offense, then of course his opportunity share should be pretty high, especially considering they're playing against the Bills, and the Bills are going to probably be sitting their starters after the first half of that game, which should open up a lot of opportunity for the offense to continue to score. Now, in regards to these other alternative options, Michael Carter sits there because James Conner could not finish his most recent game, is expected to probably miss this week. If there's a chance in which Aaron Jones misses this week taking on the Detroit Lions because he has a quad contusion. That was what the original report was. If he ends up missing, then I would say yes. Probably a good shot to pick up Cam Akers and potentially start him. Khalil Herbert, if in fact we're in a situation in which Chase Brown is not fired up and playing because of his ankle injury that he sustained on his final run of that game on Saturday's matchup against the Broncos, then Khalil Herbert can fill in. And then Jaleel McLaughlin pretty much sits there primarily because it pretty much can kind of encapsulate every single running back on the Broncos could be a value. The Chiefs are not going to start any of their starters, offensively or defensively. So I should anticipate, or we should all anticipate for the Broncos to score a pretty high sum of points, which in the case of this most recent performance, Jaleel McLaughlin coming away with 10 carries for over 80 rushing yards, pretty solid performance when he's been healthy as of late. So those are the primary thoughts. Now, again, in the event in which we get into a situation where Aaron Jones is playing, Chase Brown ends up playing this weekend. Again, both of them are in must-win scenarios for their playoff chances. We could throw in names like Blake Corum. Again, he's going to be a lesser option comparatively because he's still going to be in a second-string offense. But there are going to be other names that could be thrown into the hat and within the mix going into this week. But these are a couple of the names that we know that are going to be associated with teams that are, again, still going to be firing their starting offense and should be with a pretty good opportunity share. All right, let me get back to the live chat. Let's see here. Peter sends in a question, says, you're the absolute GOAT. Thank you very much. I won the championship. Congratulations, Peter. Glad to hear it, my man. Freddie says, thanks, Big Drew. Came up short of the 1K first, but one hell of a season. Second place, $500. Dude, you had the league in your hands the whole season. I'm sorry to hear that you weren't able to bring on the chip. You had again, from what I remember from that league, Freddie, like you had the Infinity Gauntlet lineup. But yeah, hey, sometimes it doesn't, pan in our direction. But hey, I'm glad to hear that you at least got something in return. Congratulations for that. Let's see here. Where do you have Pittsburgh tight end ranked this week? Plan to use him this week. Pittsburgh tight end as in Freiermuth. I mean, look, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals is as easy of a matchup as you could possibly ask for. The Bengals have given up the most points to opposing tight ends all season long. If I was to guess, based on this most recent week of production, they're probably top 3 within the category in terms of fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. So Freiermuth, just like last time out in which they took on the Steelers, Freiermuth probably scores a touchdown or at least is going to get himself enough receiving utilization to be a solidified option. You got to remember last time out, the Pittsburgh Steelers scored over 40 points as a team. So there's a pretty good likelihood in which there's a good likelihood that they light up this defense for the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they've played as well as they have. JC Smith says, won my league and $100. That's $1,100. Congratulations, my man. That's fantastic to hear. Congratulations. Clarence O says, I started 1-3, but I won it all. I did the same thing in my main home league. I started 1-3. I was like, I know my team's not bad. I just know that I've gotten, the shit end of the stick. Made the playoffs, and then I went out scoring like 180 points every week plus. Sean K says, I won the championship in my main money league. Congratulations, Sean. Glad to hear it. Jack says, I just lost my fantasy Super Bowl by 0.7. because of Jake Bates. Brother, no, I don't want to hear that. That's so rough. Dude, as soon as he missed that kick, I was like, bro, he's shaving points. He had the first PAT blocked, and then he missed that second one, which I was a little bit sketched out about. I was like, are they shaving points right now? Like, who, which book ended up calling him and saying, hey, brother, we need you not to score? Jack says, I lost in the... Okay, yeah, that's rough, Jack. I'm sorry to hear that. Do you think Jalen Hurts will be out? Absolutely, yes. Again, regardless of whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles win this upcoming week, they're going to be the number 2 seed. To whoever it ends up being, the Detroit Lions and or the Minnesota Vikings. So they're the solidified number 2 seed. They've won their division. They're getting a home game. So I don't expect Saquon. I don't expect A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts. I don't expect any of them to be playing this week because, again, they don't need to. If they were to play, I wouldn't expect them to play past the first half of that game. So there's a possibility in which, again, for the sake of Jalen Hurts, he probably will not play in order to make sure that he's healthy for the fantasy playoffs. You don't want to risk any other concussions because if he was to get another concussion within a short period of time, he probably won't be available for the playoff matchup, which, of course, they need to make sure that he is available for. Randall says, I just lost the year. My only loss this year was week 1. I'm baffled right now. I averaged 154. The league average was 122. Never listening to another fantasy YouTube. Listen, I will tell you, there are many of us out here that make content they're pretty good. There are times in which we're all pretty bad. But that's just, it is the nature of the luck aspect that comes into some of these situations. But I'm glad to hear that obviously your only loss this year was week 1. That is that is ridiculous, brother. That is absolutely ridiculous. Congratulations. All right, let's see here. Brian Rodriguez says, played versus Higgins, JT Purdy, and Evans, lost by 14. Yeah, I'm not surprised that you lost, to be honest. You played against the complete buzzsaw of that is a championship lineup. If you had put up a DFS lineup that won the Millie Maker or whatever, that looks like the team that would have done it. Higgins, JT, Purdy, Evans, etc. Sorry to hear that you weren't able to bring home the chip, Brian. I mean, obviously we made a valiant effort to try to get to the championship and almost pull it home, but yeah, you walked into a buzzsaw. There was nothing that you were going to do. Higgins scoring 3 touchdowns. I mean, Purdy scoring 4 touchdowns, brother. I mean, Evans, dude, if you're a Bucky Irving manager, I was so distraught this week. Bucky Irving gets them down to the 1-yard line and they're throwing fades to Evans. I get it. It's Evans. He scores, but still, hand the ball off, please. All right, let's see here. So the Lions or Vikings are full go. Yeah, listen, the teams that are full go this week are the following, okay? I'm going to go down the list of teams that are going to be at full go capacity, assuming that players didn't sustain an injury this week that are going to hold them out. The teams that are full go: Commanders, Buccaneers, Steelers, Vikings, Dolphins, Chargers, Packers, Lions, Broncos, Bengals, Panthers, Ravens, Falcons. Those are all teams that are confirmed to be full go. Okay? The teams that do not have to play for anything because they have already solidified standings in the NFL playoffs and have won their divisions or cannot increase with a win or loss or are not able to move are the Bills, Texans, Chiefs, Rams, and Eagles. Do not expect any of their starters to play past halftime or even play at all. If they were to play, I would be very much so surprised in this scenario because, again, they have already solidified their advantages. They're going to be home field for all of them, and they wouldn't risk injury, past the first half of a potential game here or potentially even the first quarter. Now, as for teams that have been eliminated from NFL playoff contention, and we will be in a to-be-determined situation over the course of this week, the following are like the Titans, Seahawks, 49ers, Jets, Giants, Saints, Patriots, Raiders, Jaguars, Colts, Cowboys, Browns, Bears, Cardinals. So in the case of like Cardinals, don't expect Connor to play. In the case of like the 49ers, if Purdy's wrist injury that he just sustained is serious enough, don't expect him to play. In the case of like Aaron Rodgers, I mean, if he's healthy, maybe he plays, but there's a chance that he may not even play this week. In the case of like Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, Chris Olave, don't expect them to return because even though they may be healthy at this point, they might not want to risk it and re-aggravate something, maybe get even more injured, require a surgery, and have to rehab that for the entirety of the offseason. They wouldn't go as far as to doing that. So we'll keep an eye on some of those players, but again, those will be the guys that we're still uncertain about going into this week. Let's see here. We had a question from Ed who says, championship, thank you. Colts was scary, won though by 5. Yeah, Colts was, brother, I'm telling you. I saw a stat earlier today. So can you imagine this? So besides the fact that Drew Lock, his performance was the 12th best quarterback performance of the season. I mean, I'm talking about total fantasy points scored. Amongst all quarterbacks this year, that's the 12th highest points scored by a quarterback. Drew Lock in week 17. Besides that performance, okay? There was a stat that I heard in terms of EPA amongst all quarterbacks in the last 20 years or 25 years since 1999-2000 season. That is like the 5th best quarterback performance of all time in terms of EPA. So, Drew, I mean, he's next to like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and then it's Drew Lock. So, again, I've seen crazier things happen, but that's probably the craziest that I've seen in a while. Lee Flores says, I won the championship. Congratulations, Lee. Glad to hear it. D-Rod says, playing in Week 18 sucks. I made it to the championship, though. Hey, listen, yeah, playing in Week 18 is horrible. I'm telling you, by the time we get to this upcoming Sunday, you're going to see me in shambles. If you thought this most recent week in terms of determining weather situations and all that kind of stuff was shambles, this week's going to be worse, I promise you. Because again, there are going to be many of teams that we're not 100% certain as to whether or not their guys are going to play for the entirety of the first half, much less the entire game. But we'll keep an eye on it, though. Hopefully the coaching staffs will give us a little bit of an indicator as to whether or not they're going to play. Maybe they'll go ahead and verbally commit to, hey, yeah, I'm going to have my starters out there, which many coaches today already confirmed. Like the Washington Commanders said, yes, we're trying to play for seeding. We're trying to specifically play against the Rams in the playoffs. So we're trying to win this week against the Cowboys, which obviously would be fun for a Rams fan as myself. Anyway, Ed says, championship, thanks to you. Colts will scare. Yeah, thank you again, Ed. Matt says, good shit this year, Andrew. See you in 25. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that, brother. 7th season says, I lost by 7 in the championship. Thanks for all the help, brother. Sorry to hear that. My condolences, brother. That's 7 points is rough, man. 7 points is sheesh. Hopefully, we didn't leave too much on the bench. If we did, I'll take the responsibility on that. My bad. Do you think Nico Collins will be out? I would assume that the entire Texans offense doesn't play. Now, if they were to play, it wouldn't surprise me if they played the first half, considering how horrible they were last time out against the Ravens. So maybe their coach wants to play them in order to be like, hey, we need to wake up. Like, we're about to go into the playoffs. We're about to have a home game. And if we look like we did last time out against the Ravens, we're going to get smacked. So I think regardless, based on how that team has been dealing with their injuries, I don't expect the Texans to get past the first round. But it wouldn't surprise me if D'Amico Ryans fired up all of his starters going into this first half of the game against against the Titans. As to whether they play the full game, that I'm not 100% certain on. Because again, whether they win or lose, they're still getting a home game because they won the AFC South. So because of that, they'll be taking on either the Chargers or the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or technically, I'm curious, if the Ravens lose, can they be... Yeah, I think there's a possibility in which the Steelers could... There's a possibility where the Ravens could be playing against the Texans in the first round of the playoffs. We'll have to wait and see, though. I think technically there's a possibility of that. I don't know. Let me see. Is there a reality in which that takes place based on current record? Looking at it right now, yes. There's technically a chance in which Pittsburgh could win in the event in which Baltimore loses, and in a couple other instances take place. Baltimore would be the 5th seed, which at that point, yes, they would travel to Houston to play Houston. So we'll see. Houston's going to be up against it regardless of who they're taking on anyway. Constantino says, do you think Saquon goes for the record? Should we play him? So we'll know for sure whether or not he's going to play. They asked Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, earlier today, whether or not he's going to play his starters. He said we'll see. He's not going to play his starters, guys. I don't expect them to go for the record. I expect them to want to go for... Look, and I would expect this out of Saquon as well because he's such a team player. I would assume that he's going to say, hey, listen, coach, I don't need to go for this record. Rest the big boys up front. They're going to need their rest so that we can go into the playoffs and we can win. I don't care about the singularized rushing record. I want to win the Super Bowl. That's what they want to go for. So I would assume chances are going into this week against the Giants that they're not going to start their main guys. Expect this to be a Kenneth Gainwell kind of week, which again, we'll have Kenneth Gainwell ranked as a potential option as a pickup player. Again, we're going to have to wait and see and get a confirmation as to whether or not Saquon will be going. But if I had to make an assumption, it would be that Saquon doesn't go, and Kenneth Gainwell, very similar to like a Kyron Williams, like a Blake Corum this week, could be a guy filling in the absence of a backup and playing well. Like I mentioned earlier, teams in which I don't expect their starters to go: the Bills, Texans, Chiefs, Rams, and Eagles, right? So Blake Corum, Kenneth Gainwell, technically, depending on how we want to deal with the Chiefs backfield, it could be like It could be Samaje Perine as the full lead back of that offense, but I don't really want to play Samaje Perine against a full stocked Denver starting defense. The Houston Texans, if they don't start Mixon this week, it would probably be, Dameon Pierce, theoretically. The Buffalo Bills, if in fact they pull their starters in the first half, in the second half, you would assume it's going to be Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. So again, those could be viable options. But again, if they're not going to have the full 4 quarters of play, or if it's going to be a lesser offense because their offensive starting line is going to be half of them out, it may not be the best product to start out there for fantasy purposes. Is Zach Ertz an option? Yeah, if Zach Ertz is available in your league, he's absolutely an option. I currently, if I'm not mistaken, on Yahoo, he's rostered in 50% of leagues. On Sleeper, I think his roster percentage is even higher. So that's why I don't have him on screen, is because I assumed that he would already be rostered in your league. As it currently stands, on Sleeper, he's rostered in 62%. Yeah, on Yahoo, 50%. So yeah, if Zach Ertz is available, go for it. Dude, you know what's crazy? Somebody asked me, hey, Andrew, listen, I know that Zach Ertz has all these incentives. Do you think he'll be able to get all of them? I was like, the receptions and receiving yards, sure, but I don't think he's going to get his 2 receiving touchdowns. Brother, he hit all 3 of his incentives. He made $750,000 because of his 6 catches, 72 and 2 touchdowns. And whoever played him, they got 25.2 fantasy points out of him, which was ridiculous. Billy Mack says, won the championship with Daniels, Evans, Spears, Buffalo defense, and Reichard. They carried Adams, Hall, and Achane for me. Kittle was just bonus points today. I secured yesterday. Congratulations, brother. That is crazy. Yeah, Jaden Daniels, man. That's the league winner, right? It feels like Jaden Daniels was, geez, what a ridiculous season, to say the least. Brian Rodriguez says a buzzsaw is definitely the right word. Was watching 1 yard to Evans, just sick. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I cannot believe that they could have Bucky Irving get him down to the 1 yard line and then not hand him off the ball on multiple occasions. Ridiculous. For those of you who had Devontae Smith, by the way, Devontae Smith got tackled down at the 1 yard line. The next play was a Kenny Pickett tush push into the end zone. That could have been a 3rd touchdown for his most recent performance, which is crazy to think. But there, again, every week there's guys that get screwed on the 1 yard line every single week of the season. That is just a common thread over the course of the year. And the fact of the matter is we can't do anything about it. It's out of our control. It's just, happenstance that some of these scenarios go one way or the other. Constantino says PPR Ertz, Jonnu Smith, or Chigoziem Okonkwo. So the Miami Dolphins are going to be full go. I don't expect Tua to play because, again, even though they're technically in playoff contention, I still don't think that the hip injury is probably going to allow for Tua to play. So it'll be Tyler Huntley again, which again, for the sake of Jonnu Smith scoring a touchdown, still was kind of implemented within the overall offense at a pretty good rate. In terms of matchups, so Washington plays against Dallas. I don't mind that because Dallas' defense and quite frankly their offense isn't really much of a source of potential production this upcoming week. As for Jonnu Smith, if I'm not mistaken, who they play against who are they playing against this week? Is it the Jets? Let's see your Dolphins schedule. I believe it's the Jets. Yeah, they play against the Jets this week. Last time out against the Jets, he did score a touchdown in overtime. It wasn't the cleanest overall performance. I'd probably still go with Jonnu there. I know Zach Ertz is coming off a monster performance. I just don't know how consistent that is going to be. That like a 2-touchdown game is almost out of the realm of like the consistency there probably isn't going to exist when you're coming off of a game in which Terry McLaurin only had 1 catch. Terry McLaurin ran cardio again. So I'd assume it'd be more of a Terry McLaurin implicated game. I'd probably just play Jonnu still in this scenario. Dopey says I won today, 144 to 118 against to 118 against. Thanks and salutations, Kirkhoff. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Congratulations. Do you think Anthony Richardson will play? I don't think so. Again, at this point, considering the Colts are now eliminated, and of course their defense took an early vacation this most recent week, I would assume that they're trying to get a higher pick. So if it's my prediction on the matter, I don't expect him to play. I would assume they have Flacco out there, win or lose. They just want to try to get out of this season. I think that's where they're at right now. Okay, let's see here. We took care of that. Neil P says I got Cash Apped to me only to find out we have one more league to play. Manager wasn't aware either. Well, okay, here's the thing. If everybody would, okay, so just to kind of respond to that, Neil, if you're playing in a league where everyone thought it was a 17-week season, then just call it at 17 weeks. Just end it. Don't even play week 18. Who cares? The league's over. If you guys all thought it was going to be 17 weeks and it technically has an 18 week implicated, you don't have to take the results of that 18th week and apply it. You could just be like, all right, it was 17 weeks. That's how fantasy is supposed to be played. Week 18 is not supposed to be played because of X, Y, or Z reasons, because there are going to be 5 teams minimum that don't start their starters for the entirety of games this week because they've already secured NFL playoff positioning. If I was in your league, dude, don't even send back the I mean, that's a completely different conversation, but you should probably tell your league manager, hey, listen, 17 weeks is typically where it's at, and I won already, so let's call it there. Bro Pez says, I lost by 2 because of the Colts defense. Brother, that's so rough. I'm sorry. That is, geez Louise, brother. My apologies. That's rough. Sheesh. Whew. Failures no option says, where do you rank Russ this week? I mean, it depends on Okay, so here's the first and foremost thought process. The Cincinnati defense, last time out against them, Russell Wilson played relatively well. Additionally, we'll have another week, hopefully, of a healthy, what's his name? George Pickens. I'd probably estimate to say, assuming we have guys like, again, this is under the assumption that like guys like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, CJ Stroud aren't playing entirety of games. That leaves Russell Wilson in the top 16 conversation. As to exactly where I'm going to place him, we'll know by later this week. I'll have a clear indication based on the research that I conduct, based on the overall upcoming matchup. But like we've talked about in the past, and I'll go ahead and reiterate the stat once again. When we talk about quarterbacks specifically taking on the Cincinnati defense as of late, Cincinnati's defense, even though they've played better as a fantasy defense in the last couple weeks, they haven't been able to stop opposing quarterbacks nonetheless. They have recently allowed 3 passing touchdowns to Bo Nix, 2 to Mason Rudolph, 2 to Cooper Rush, 3 to Russell Wilson, 2 to Justin Herbert, 4 to Lamar Jackson. So technically, they've allowed 2 or more passing touchdowns in 5 of the last 6 games in which they've played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 of the last 6 games played. The only quarterback who didn't throw 2 touchdowns against them recently was Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And obviously, we're not surprised by that. Even though Jerry Jeudy did have himself a healthy target share this most recent week, 18 targets, 12 catches, very impressive. But yeah, as of right now, I would assume Russell Wilson should be a fantastic play, especially last time out against that defense. 414 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. So assume maybe even top 12 potential. Doppio says, me too. I just lost by 2.59 because of the Colts, brother. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is... We could have literally played any other defense and been fine, but the Colts had to just go to Cancun 1 week early. My bad. I apologize, guys. That's rough. Brandon Webb says, first place. Let's go. Congratulations, Brandon. Steel City says, appreciate you, Andrew. I won my league again for the 2nd year in a row. Thanks again for the advice. No problem. Glad to help in any way. HGH says, I won my league in spite of starting the Colts defense and the Houston kicker. Yeah, Houston kicker 0 points is rough. The fact that you won with -4 points contributed from those 2 positions and you still won means that the rest of your team must have been, beyond solid, or that your opponent had the roughest championship game of all time. Denny says, will the Packers play their starters? They absolutely will. Let me tell you why. So as it currently stands, they're still trying to fight for seeding in regards to who they're going to face. So under the assumption that so this is the primary reason why. In the event in which the Packers lose this week and the Washington Commanders win, the Packers would then have to play the Eagles in the first round, which they do not want to do. They would much rather play against the number 2 seed, which is either going to be the Rams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the Falcons, depending on how the breakdown occurs this in the given week. It probably ends up being the Rams, which they prefer to play, again, considering the Packers beat them earlier this week in LA. Or earlier this season, not this week, sorry. So, yes, the Packers will be starting their starters because, again, they're hoping that the Commanders will lose and they're hoping that they can win in order to not have to play the Eagles in the first round. Now, again, that would be a pretty fun matchup to begin the NFL playoffs. Wildcard weekend, Eagles versus Packers. It started, week 1 in Brazil. Once again, with that matchup, could be an exciting one to say the very least. Why was Jordan Love so terrible this week, brother? The offense as a whole has really it's not been the Jordan Love of last year. Last year, with considering the injuries that took place to A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they were just a passing funnel of an offense. They really haven't been that this year. It's really been predicated on running the ball. The offensive scheme has kind of been similar at times, but really has been predicated on running. And if they're at any point in situations where they're down points, and you have to ditch the running game in the case of which they had to, they fall apart at times. But again, this most recent performance, better late than never to get some points on the board. But yeah, I mean, it was a rough start to say the very least for him. He'll be better though. Again, the Vikings are a tough matchup. Let's not mess around. The Vikings are a tough matchup. They've given him troubles each of the last 2 games. Obviously, the Vikings are no joke, especially when it comes to their defense. So even though they've given up their fair share of points to opposing wide receivers, they still, because they see Jordan Love twice a year every year, they know how to play against them. They know how to match up properly. Let's see here. Ian Poland says, I should have clarified. I once survived it. Okay, congratulations, Ian. Says, I had a 17-point lead and Bates. He had Gibbs, won by 2 points. Congratulations, brother. Holland says, okay, we took care of that. Wallace says, won my league because of you. You're the man. Thank you very much, Wallace. I'm glad to help in any single way that I possibly was able to. PV says, thanks for tipping me off on Bucky. Needed him so bad with Connor and Achane on my team. Yeah, dude. Oh, did you end up winning? If you ended up winning, congratulations. Fantastic. But yeah, Connor and Achane tried to really bury the lead getting to the championship there. Green Screen Man says, will there be rankings video? They're going to be, okay, so this is how it's going to be. For those of you who are playing in week 18 and you are still here listening, this is how it's going to construct for the remainder of the week. I'm going to live stream every day until this upcoming Sunday. So tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll be here live every day, 6 p.m. PST. So I'll live stream every single day for like an hour plus, and I will have rankings on screen. So tomorrow, top 36 running backs will be here. Instead of it being waiver wire here, it'll be top 36 running backs here. Now, again, those rankings will change over the course of this week as we progress towards upcoming Sunday, Saturday games. So I'll have rankings available on Saturday and Sunday's live stream as well. This upcoming Saturday, just so we can confirm, if I go to the NFL schedule as for this upcoming week, the first game of the Saturday slate begins at 1:30 p.m. So I'll stream probably an hour and a half before that. So at noon, Saturday, PST, I'll be live here on the channel with updated rankings on screen for top 36 running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, kickers, all that kind of jazz. If you miss one of the upcoming live streams in the upcoming days, I will post the live stream on the channel the same day. So if you want to swing back around to go check the video to see where I have players ranked in order to go pick up certain players, all that kind of jazz, you can do so. But yeah, I'll be live streaming every single day. No actual posts to the channel because, again, week 18 is a little bit different. There's the volume of people who play in week 18 is such a small contingency that I think it's just better off to go out and just post videos, or just instead of posting videos, just go live, because I can answer anybody's question over the course of the next coming days, one-on-one, whenever you have a question regarding your team this week. Thank you. Let's see here. BJ says, thanks, Andrew. I won 2 out of my 3 leagues this year. Appreciate you, brother. Glad to help. Congratulations, BJ. Okay, so we took care of that. We're good to go. Thoughts on Jaylen Warren? He should be playing this week. He should be a great play. I mean, again, considering the usage of Najee Harris as most recent week, Najee Harris, obviously because of the fumbling troubles he's had, and obviously because they've been in negative game scripts, Jaylen Warren has been getting more touches, but he was the significantly more efficient runner within the offense's most recent game. If you guys watched that game on Christmas Day, Christmas morning, you saw him score a rushing touchdown. It was called back, unfortunately, due to a holding penalty, and then the next play is a turnover. So, he could have had himself, he had 13 points and a half PPR, could have easily had himself 20-plus points, which, again, going into this week's matchup against Cincinnati, should be a pretty solid player at an RB2 capacity. Aubrey sold me with an ostrich egg. Yeah, with a goose egg, you mean? Yeah. But still got 175. That's rough. Yeah, look, I had a feeling that the Cowboys wouldn't be able to score. I had a feeling that the Giants wouldn't be able to score. But hey, one way went this way, the other one went for a 40 bomb. Pretty interesting turn of events. Joel Garza says, who's playing in week 18? There are a small contingency of players who unfortunately have gotten themselves into a situation where they're playing in week 18. Again, hopefully the events that take place this upcoming weekend will motivate them to change that for future seasons. But obviously, as it currently stands, there are small contingency. That's why I'm here. I want to help as much as I can. So even if we're able to win this week, let's bring home the chip. Is Baltimore playing their starters? Yes. Again, so as it currently stands, there's a chance that if Baltimore loses, they could lose the division. So in the event in which, because they are a 1-1 record against the Steelers in terms of wins, losses in the head-to-head matchup, in the event in which they were to lose, let me just check this out really quickly. Yeah, so in the event in which they were to lose, they would go to 11-6 record, and then if the Steelers won, they would go to an 11-6 record. At a head-to-head tie, there's a possibility in which the Steelers could edge them out and be the number 3 seed in the AFC. So yes, the Ravens will be firing up all their starters against the Browns, and they're going to mop them in the first half pretty easily. The Beaver sends in a question, says, "I won my championship, Andrew. Thanks a lot for the content and advice, bro. Keep it up." Thank you very much, Beaver. I'm glad to help glad to hear that I was able to help out. God's Honest Truth says, "Should I start Dobbins?" Yes. Again, very similar in which so the Chargers are going to fire up all their starters. I'll tell you exactly why. So when I'm looking at the chart as it currently stands in regards to playoff seeding, there is a possibility in which the Chargers could have the number 5 seed in the event in which they win. And so the only way in which the Chargers get the number 5 seed is if Joe Burrow beats the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chargers beat the Raiders this week. When they do so, they would then play the Houston Texans in the NFL playoffs, which everybody wants to do when you're on the AFC side. So, yes, the Chargers are going to be firing up their starters. Play J.K. Dobbins. He looked great this most recent week. Should be able to continue to score. Joel Garza says, underhand passes shouldn't be counted as a touchdown. Do you agree? You're the GOAT, for real. Thank you, Joel Garza. Appreciate it. It says, "Thanks for everything that you do. Time and effort is everything." Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So here's the thing. Underhand passes should not count as a passing touchdown. No, I disagree. Anytime the pass is a forward pass, whether it is a overhand or underhand pass, it counts. As long as it is going forward, right? That's just the rule of the game. If we were to say like underhand passes or flick tosses are not passing touchdowns, then we have to re-rack the whole rule set as to what constitutes a forward pass in the National Football League, right? So as of right now, let's just leave it at yes, it counts. But yes, it is very much so a stat padding situation. Like Deebo Samuel scoring that, like even though it's I caught the ball for Purdy and he just tosses it forward, Purdy didn't really do anything. You could have just direct snapped it straight to Deebo in that scenario, and it would have been the same event of a touchdown. All right, let's see here. What teams do you think will bench their starters this week? Yeah, we've mentioned it earlier, and I'll go ahead and reiterate, and we'll go out and go into further detail as we progress over the course of this week. The expectation is that the Bills, Texans, Chiefs, Rams, and Eagles, considering they have all secured a playoff position, and whether they win or lose this week, they cannot change their standing position. The expectation is that all those teams, all 5 of those teams, the Bills, Texans, Chiefs, Rams, and Eagles, do not start their starters. Now, if there's a situation in which some of these other teams in the National Football League are dealing with injuries, they may not start their starters, especially teams who have been eliminated from NFL playoff contention. They may not start their primary guys. But as for the guys or the teams that are still in the hunt, the Falcons, Ravens, Bengals, Broncos, Lions, Packers, Chargers, Dolphins, Vikings, Steelers, Buccaneers, and Commanders, all still fighting for playoff positioning. They're all still going to be firing up their players, which is good to go. Pretty Hate Machine says, so Lamar will be playing. Yes, he will be playing. I picked up Knicks thinking he wasn't. No, Lamar should be playing because, again, they want home field advantage. So they have to play this week. Again, there's a possibility in which if they lose and the Pittsburgh Steelers win and a couple other events take place, the Pittsburgh Steelers would theoretically win the AFC North, which, again, they don't want to have happen. Finman 1219 says, can we see Best Ball Mania leaderboard? How do we even access the leaderboard, brother? That's my question. I don't even know how to access the leaderboard. I don't even have any teams. I think I drafted 2 Best Ball Mania teams this whole year. Is there a way to access the leaderboard? Because if there is, then I'd be more than happy to check. But let me see. Best Ball Mania 5 leaderboard. I wouldn't even know how to access it. I know how to, well, actually, this is this year or is this last year? No, this is Best Ball Mania 3. This is a couple years ago. Yeah, I don't even know where to find the link to get to the actual leaderboards for it, unless you had a team in the mix. G.I. Joe says, sir, I'm a champion, and you are the reason, brother. Went 16-1 overall. That is ridiculous, G.I. Joe. Congratulations. Glad to hear it. Sean K says the Ravens haven't locked up the division yet, and if they lose, they could lose. Yeah, hosting the playoff game. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. Owner says Harlem Globetrotter inside of the elbow flick pass. Yeah, exactly. Sabrina says Gesicki, Conklin, Okonkwo, or Njoku if he plays. I don't think Njoku's going to play. Well, look, in the event in which he does play, I would like to play Njoku. But under the assumption that he doesn't play, because again, they're not really playing for playoff seeding or contention. They just want to get a higher draft pick going forward. And again, he's still dealing with his hamstring injury. I would assume the best available option of the bunch going into this week probably ends up being... So considering the Titans head coach specifically said that both Will Levis and Mason Rudolph is going to play, I'd eliminate Chigoziem Okonkwo from that equation. So if we're eliminating Chigoziem Okonkwo and Njoku because of his injury, if it's between Conklin and Gesicki, it's purely going to be dependent on if Aaron Rodgers actually plays. Otherwise, just give me Gesicki because I know Burrow's on fire, and of course, he kept looking in the direction of Gesicki on a consistent rating in this most recent game, and hopefully that'll just carry on over to this upcoming matchup against the Steelers. Jocelyn says, I pray Rodgers doesn't play so Hall can be relevant this week. In the event in which he doesn't play, they're still playing against the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are still trying to win in order to secure a playoff positioning, and the Dolphins have a pretty good run-stop defense, so even if that's the case, I agree with you, but it's still going to be a tough matchup in his situation. Alrighty. Good to go there. All right. So, again, just to reiterate, for those of you guys who are playing in Week 18, for the next 4 consecutive nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I will be live here on the channel starting at 6 p.m. PST. There are no Thursday games this week. The first game of the week begins on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. PST. So for the next 4 nights, I'll be here at 6 p.m. with running back, wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback rankings for the next 4 nights, okay? We'll answer questions. We'll get that all established. We'll get you in the right position. Prior to tomorrow's waiver wire running, I'll be here tomorrow from 6 to 7 p.m. PST. So if you have any questions, be sure to swing on by. If you're not able to swing on by, the VOD of the video, the live stream VOD will be on the channel. It'll just be in the live tab. So if you go to my channel, instead of going to videos, you just go to live and it'll be sitting there. Additionally, I'll be back on Saturday afternoon/morning, 12 p.m. PST with rankings on screen prior to the Saturday games. And then, of course, Sunday morning prior to the games on Sunday with rankings on screen. So that is the schedule for this upcoming week. We should be good to go. Sabrina says, is Ray Davis a good pickup if without Kyron? I would say that Ray Davis and or Corum could be solid pickups and plays. The only issue that I theoretically have with both of those situations is if in the event that the starters for both those teams are pulled, which they will expect it to be, that is expected to be the case. If you're going to pull the offensive line, if you're going to pull the starting, offensive pieces, quarterback, wide receivers, tight ends, etc. If we're going to have a lesser product from both of those offenses, even in those matchups, I don't love it. Between the two of them, I would probably prefer to roll in the direction of Ray Davis because, again, I do think that taking on New England, even when you have a backup offensive line, will be a little bit more of a solidified play in comparison to Corum, who will probably be playing against a full-fledged defense of the Seattle Seahawks with Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback. So I don't expect much from the Rams. I would probably lean towards Ray Davis in the event in which you didn't have Kyron this week, which don't expect to have Kyron. He's probably going to be out because, again, they've secured a they've secured a playoff standing. And like Sean McVay has presented in his career, he never plays his starters in the preseason, nor if they've clinched a playoff spot, does he play them in the final week 18, just like he did last year. Cardinals will play starters, yes. There's a possibility. I don't expect Connor to play, but I expect the rest of them to play, assuming they're healthy. Okay. People don't get anything on the Cardinals. Thank you, Constantino. I appreciate that, brother. Ed says, let me just go ahead and let me refresh this page really quickly. Let's see what Ed said. And then I think that's where we're going to end it in terms of today's live stream. I do appreciate y'all coming through. Ed Khalil says, do you think the Cardinals will play their starters? Yeah, I do think so. I think Kyler, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride should be expected to play. Unless there's an injury that took place this most recent week, which we're not privy to yet and may pop up on the injury report, which may hold out a player, the assumption is that they should be starting their primary guys. That's why I have Michael Carter on screen because, again, I don't expect Connor to play considering he wasn't healthy enough to return to action this most recent week after he re-sustained said injury. But yeah, that's the direction that we're leaning in. Okay, guys. I appreciate y'all. Again, I'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. PST. We'll have even further kind of discussion regarding waiver wires and, of course, the top 36 running back rankings so that whether you're deciding to go one way or the other on some of these running backs, you'll have a clear indication as to which way I am going to begin the week. All right. For those of you who are listening and you won a 2024 Fantasy Football Championship, congratulations. For those of you who are on the cusp of doing so in week 18, of course, job's not finished. We're going to go ahead and try to get that done. I do appreciate y'all. We're going to call it there. I'm going to cue the double helix. Again, tomorrow night, I'll see you guys, hopefully. Otherwise, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you guys in 2025. Thank you, everybody. And until next time, we are cueing the music, and I'll see you guys. Peace. Where's my graphic? There it is. Oh yeah, by the way, Sabrina just asked the question. Says, I know you technically don't know, but my opponent has Saquon. Any predictions on him? My prediction is that he's not going to play. I don't think that they'll jeopardize the Super Bowl chances for the record. That's my prediction. We'll see.